In the early 1960s, the area around Caddo Lake in Texas and Louisiana was largely undeveloped, with dense forests and swamps providing a perfect setting for wildlife, and as some locals believed, for mysterious creatures. The story primarily comes from a group of locals, including hunters and fishermen, who spent significant time in the woods and swamps around Caddo Lake. The sighting occurred near the northeastern shore of the lake, an area known for its thick cypress trees and murky waters. The witnesses were in the area during a hunting trip. They reported hearing unusual noises, such as rustling leaves and branches snapping, which they initially attributed to deer or other common wildlife. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they claimed to have seen a large, hairy creature standing upright. The creature was described as being around 7 to 8 feet tall, with dark, matted hair covering its body. The creature reportedly stood still for a few moments, observing the hunters, before moving away into the deeper woods. Witnesses noted that the creature moved in a distinctly human-like manner, walking on two legs. They also reported a strong, foul odor emanating from the creature, which they described as a mix of wet dog and decaying matter. No aggressive behavior was observed. The creature appeared more curious than threatening. The story quickly spread among the local community, with some people expressing skepticism while others believed the witnesses. Local newspapers picked up the story, though it was often treated more as a curiosity or a local legend rather than serious news. Subsequent to the sighting, some enthusiasts and amateur cryptozoologists visited the area hoping to find evidence or catch a glimpse of the creature. However, no definitive proof emerged from these efforts. The 1960s sighting is significant because it marks the beginning of the Caddo critter legend. It laid the foundation for future reports and helped establish the creature in local folklore. The consistency in descriptions of the creature, its height, hair, bipedal movement, and foul odor, provided a template for later sightings and reports. The 1970 story surrounding the Caddo critter is one of the most notable and widely discussed encounters in the lore of this mysterious creature. Here are the details. In the early 1970s, sightings of the Caddo critter surged, likely fueled by the growing interest in Bigfoot and similar creatures across the United States. One of the most well-documented and intriguing encounters occurred during this time. The primary witnesses were a group of teenagers from the local area. They were familiar with the woods and swamps around Caddo Lake, often spending their weekends exploring and camping. The sighting took place near the northeastern shore of the lake, close to where the 1960s sighting had been reported. This area is characterized by its dense cypress forests and secluded, marshy terrain. One summer night in 1970, the teenagers decided to camp out near the lake. They set up their campfire and spent the evening telling stories and roasting marshmallows. As night fell, they began to hear strange noises coming from the woods, rustling leaves, snapping branches, and occasional low grunts or growls. Initially, they dismissed these sounds as typical nocturnal wildlife activity. Around midnight, one of the teenagers noticed movement at the edge of the firelight. When they directed their flashlights towards the noise, they saw a large, hairy figure standing partially obscured by the trees. The creature was described as approximately 7 to 8 feet tall, with a muscular build covered in dark, matted hair. Its eyes seemed to reflect the light, appearing to glow red in the darkness. The creature reportedly stood still for a few moments, observing the teenagers. Some witnesses later described feeling a sense of intense fear. After a few tense minutes, the creature turned and walked back into the woods, disappearing from sight. Its movement was fluid and bipedal, similar to that of a human but with a distinct, lumbering gait. The teenagers quickly packed up their campsite and left the area, too frightened to stay the night. They reported the encounter to their families and local authorities. While their account was met with skepticism by some, Others believed the teenagers, particularly because their descriptions matched those from previous sightings. The story of the teenagers' encounter spread quickly through the local community. Many residents were intrigued, and some even ventured into the woods in hopes of spotting the creature themselves. Local newspapers covered the story, though it was often treated as a curious legend rather than hard news. Some articles included interviews with the teenagers and sketches based on their descriptions. In the months following the 1970 incident, there were additional reports of strange noises and fleeting glimpses of a large, hairy creature in the same area. The 1970 sighting is significant because it involved multiple witnesses, detailed descriptions, and a close encounter. It reinforced the existing legend of the Caddo critter and added new elements to the creature's mythology, such as the glowing red eyes. This incident also contributed to the broader cultural fascination with cryptids during the 1970s, a period when interest in Bigfoot and similar creatures was at a peak. The 1980s and 1990s also saw continued reports and sightings of the Caddo critter, contributing to the growing lore surrounding this mysterious creature. In the early 1980s, a local hunter named James Miller reported an encounter with the Caddo critter. He was an experienced outdoorsman familiar with the wildlife in the area. This sighting occurred in a remote part of the Caddo Lake woods, far from any developed areas. James was on a hunting trip when he noticed a strong, unpleasant odor, unlike anything he had experienced before. As he followed the scent, he saw a large, hairy figure moving through the trees. He estimated the creature to be around 8 feet tall and covered in dark, shaggy hair. The creature noticed James but did not appear aggressive. It watched him for a few moments before retreating into the dense forest. James shared his story with local hunters and outdoor enthusiasts, adding to the growing number of reports about the Caddo critter. In the mid-1980s, a fisherman named Robert Harris reported a sighting while on Caddo Lake. He was fishing in a secluded area when he saw a large figure on the shoreline. Robert described the creature as being around 7 feet tall, with long arms and a muscular build. The creature observed him for a while before disappearing into the woods. In another incident, a group of campers claimed to have heard strange noises and seen glowing red eyes in the distance while camping near the lake. They reported feeling an overwhelming sense of being watched and decided to leave the area earlier than planned. In the early 1990s, a couple named Mark and Lisa Johnson reported seeing the Caddo critter while hiking near Caddo Lake. The sighting took place on a popular hiking trail near the northeastern shore of the lake. Mark and Lisa were hiking when they noticed movement in the woods ahead of them. They initially thought it was a deer or a bear. As they approached, they saw a tall, hairy creature standing upright. The creature was around 7 to 8 feet tall, with dark, matted hair and a powerful build. The creature watched them for a few seconds before turning and walking away, vanishing into the thick forest. The couple reported their sighting to local authorities and shared their story with friends and family. Their detailed description matched previous reports of the Caddo critter. In 1995, a fisherman named David Reynolds had a close encounter with the Caddo critter. He was fishing on the lake when he noticed something large moving on the opposite shore. David described the creature as being about 7 feet tall, with long, dark hair and a distinctly human-like face. The creature appeared curious and watched David for several minutes before walking back into the woods. David's sighting gained some attention in local newspapers, and he was interviewed by cryptozoologists interested in the Caddo critter. His account added to the growing body of anecdotal evidence. The 2000s to 2010s saw continued interest and occasional sightings of the Caddo critter. Here's what happened around those times. A group of college students from nearby universities decided to camp near Caddo Lake during their summer break. The sighting took place near a remote camping spot on the northeastern shore of the lake. While sitting around their campfire one evening, the students began hearing strange, distant noises that they couldn't identify, low grunts and rustling in the underbrush. One of the students noticed movement at the edge of their campsite. Shining a flashlight in that direction, they saw a large, hairy figure standing just beyond the tree line. The creature was described as being around 7 to 8 feet tall, with long, matted hair and glowing eyes that reflected the light from the flashlight. The creature stood still for a few moments, then turned and disappeared into the woods, leaving the students shaken but unharmed. The students reported their encounter to local authorities and shared their story on internet forums dedicated to cryptozoology, drawing interest from enthusiasts. A local fisherman named Carl Peterson reported a sighting while fishing on the lake. The sighting occurred in a secluded area of Caddo Lake, known for its thick cypress trees and quiet waters. Carl was fishing alone early one morning when he noticed a large figure moving along the shoreline. He described the creature as being around 8 feet tall, with dark, shaggy hair and a human-like gait. The creature seemed to be foraging along the shore and didn't notice Carl until he accidentally made a noise. The creature briefly looked in Carl's direction before retreating into the forest. Carl shared his sighting with local fishing buddies and reported it to a local newspaper, which published a short article about the encounter. A family of 4 was out for a day hike near Caddo Lake. At a popular hiking trail that winds through the forested areas around the lake. The family reported hearing unusual noises, such as heavy footsteps and branches breaking, as they walked along the trail. The father, who was ahead of the group, saw a large, hairy creature cross the trail about 50 yards ahead. He described it as around 7 feet tall, with long arms and a bulky frame. The creature moved quickly and silently, disappearing into the dense forest. The family hurried back to their car and reported the sighting to park rangers, who investigated but found no physical evidence. 2 friends, John and Mike, who were camping near the lake, a remote campsite on the northeastern shore of Caddo Lake. Late at night, John and Mike heard loud guttural growls coming from the woods around their campsite. As they investigated with flashlights, they saw a large, hairy figure standing just outside the reach of their lights. The creature appeared to be watching them. They described it as around 7 to 8 feet tall, with long, dark hair and glowing red eyes. The creature slowly backed away into the forest, and the noises eventually ceased. The friends packed up their gear and left the campsite immediately. They shared their story with local authorities and online forums. A couple, Lisa and Tom, who were canoeing on Caddo Lake, a quiet, less frequented part of the lake surrounded by dense forest. As they paddled through a narrow, tree-lined channel, they noticed a large figure on the shore, seemingly drinking from the lake. Lisa and Tom described the creature as around 8 feet tall, with long, dark hair and a hunched posture. The creature noticed them and quickly retreated into the forest, moving with surprising speed and agility. The couple shared their sighting with friends and family and posted about it on social media, gaining attention from local news outlets. A hunter named Bill Thompson, who was familiar with the local wildlife, deep in the woods near Caddo Lake. Bill was in a hunting blind early one morning when he saw a large, hairy creature moving through the trees. He described the creature as around 7 feet tall, with a muscular build and dark, matted hair. The creature moved quickly and silently, disappearing into the forest before Bill could get a closer look. Bill reported his sighting to local hunters and outdoor enthusiasts, adding to the ongoing legend of the Caddo critter. So what do you guys think about the Caddo critter? Was it a Sasquatch all those witnesses seen? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and until I upload another video for your entertainment, thank you for watching, and God bless you and your families.